I promise this is exactly what you're looking for. My goal is that this is your one-stop shop to plan your entire trip to Bali. Stick around. Hey, I'm Finn. I'm one of the co-founders here at Trip Travel Gear, which is the channel that you're watching. My husband and I, we were in Bali for several months in 2016. We went back in 2021, 2023. I feel like we have a good understanding of what Bali travel is all about. And so that's why we're making this video, is to help you plan your trip, whether it's your first time or a return trip to Bali. By the end of this video, you are going to have an entire itinerary mapped out either in your head, or I suggest taking notes on your iPhone or on a piece of paper as you go along, because this is very detailed information and I'm gonna give you all the information so that you can plan the right trip for you. Bali is such a diverse place itself, but also invites diverse tourists. So whether you are backpacking in your 20s and your honeymoon in your 30s, you wanna go for diving, you wanna go and have more of a cultural experience, you wanna go and party with some surfing Aussies, I've got all the spots for you, and then you can use this information to make the perfect itinerary for you. Speaking to my North American audience, Bali is so freaking far away. It is so far away. So we're gonna start by getting to Bali, and then I'm gonna talk about different regions, and we're gonna map out kind of like how long you would want to stay in those locations. Then after we walk through multiple different locations, we're gonna talk about a recommended route or itinerary based on completing a circle around the island, jumping out on day trips to nearby islands, popular photos that you've definitely seen before, and the best way to get to and from the airport based on crazy traffic patterns. Let's go. Section 1, getting to Bali. Let me start. Oh, I just drew all over my notes. Oh, and I deleted a whole section. BRB. Okay. Section 1, getting to Bali. Let's start by telling a quick little story here. In 2016, when we were in Bali, we had some friends visiting. They were traveling around the world for a few months. They were coming from the Philippines. They booked a flight from Manila to what they thought was the Balinese airport on the island of Bali in the country of Indonesia. Well, since it's been years now, they booked Bali Agung. Well, Bali Agung is a Malaysian island, just not the right Bali. So tip number 1 in traveling your itinerary of getting to Bali, the name of the island, in the country of Indonesia, is the fact that the airport is in the capital city of Bali called Denpasar. So the airport code for Bali is DPS. Everybody's always typing in Bali in your search engine to find flights there. You are looking for flights to DPS, which is Denpasar. So if you gather nothing else from this video, I hope you don't arrive in the wrong. The end of the story is that the gate agent was kind of are you two American backpackers sure you're going to Bali Agung? Are you not going to Bali? And they just booked another flight in the Manila airport right there. Anyways, they made it and we had a great time motorbiking all around the island. All right, so flights to Denpasar. How do you get to Denpasar? Well, I joked with you that Bali is so far for North Americans. Thailand is significantly closer. Australia is significantly closer. Based on where it is on the equator and in the middle of the ocean, it just is that far to fly there. So if you're on the east coast of the US or Canada, you're probably flying over Europe and the Middle East to get to Asia to get there. If you are on the west coast of Canada and the US, you're flying over Alaska, over Tokyo, maybe you would land, or have a Seoul layover, Taipei, and then probably another flight maybe through Bangkok as you move south, and then another flight to get to Denpasar. So that's why this section of getting to Bali is an entire section of this video, because getting to Bali will take you at minimum 24 to 27 hours, if not 42 on a more budget itinerary. So this could be a really good opportunity for you to use your trip to Bali to add in another interesting destination that you haven't been to that you've been wanting to go. So you and your travel partner, instead of sitting around all these airports, you could intentionally use a stopover to get to Bali. Some recommended stopovers that would be a great add-on into this trip, you know, assuming that you don't want to pack for different weather, would be like a trip to Dubai. You can fly direct from New York to Dubai, I think Miami too, to Dubai, and direct from Dubai on Emirates right to Denpasar. So all of a sudden from North America, depending on what airport you're coming from, to Bali with one layover, that is unheard of. That is one of the most efficient ways to get there. And add in like 2 nights in Dubai, great, easy, fun layover, and there's a bonus on your trip. If you're doing some type of flight hacking and you're not using points, you are paying for your ticket, you could look for a really cheap flight to Europe, like London, Paris. That would get you closer. You could get there one way for, at a good time, like $400 one way, then look for flights to Bali from London, Paris. You're gonna save a whole bunch of money just because the dollar amount from the US would be insane. It's just gonna be an expensive flight. Going the other way, if you are Houston or west, you're probably flying west over the Pacific Ocean to get to Bali. My girlfriend visiting me went from Dallas and had a layover in Sydney to come to Bali. So maybe you find like a nice Qantas flight that gets you into Australia where you have an interesting layover there. Or if you are up in like Denver, Seattle, San Francisco, a lot of those flights would get you over to Tokyo, Taipei, Seoul, and that could be a fun layover too. What I would not recommend is saving $200 to fly like China Southern Airlines through Xiamen, where does it go through? And just having this really long, crazy experience laying over through China. To me, that would not be worth saving $200. And sometimes the visas can get really complicated flying through China because you're not always permitted to fly into certain regions. It just gets really messy. So even though you might see that as an option, that would be my last option if it was me. On our most recent trip, we took Tim's sister who had never been to Bali. I pre-warned her of the travel day of just like how intense it is to get there and asked her, why Bali for this trip and why not Thailand, which is 6 hours closer? Why not Costa Rica? Bali really is a special, unique place. It is totally worth the travel effort to get there, and that's really what the rest of this video is going to be. So I hope I didn't scare you away from Bali just because it's far. The juice is worth the squeeze. Chapter 2, Bali at a glance. Let's talk about all of the different regions in Bali, this island that's twice the size of Maui, because there's just a lot going on this island. And depending on what you want to do on this trip, you can really have so many different types of trip just on this one island. So let's dive into all the different regions. All right, well, this is fun. We're gonna do a little coloring project together. So here is the airport. It's kind of in between these two little island nuggets. Those are connected, that is land. All of these points of interest that are saved on here are points of interest that I've accumulated over the last like 8 years. You too can see all these points of interest in the link below that will take you over to our website. We've got all of this saved in a big long article for you. You can use as reference points and also see this Google map. This is the island of Bali as a small island in the large archipelago of Indonesia. A little geography lesson here. I'm mostly talking about the island here, but other points of interest that we're going to talk about are the grouping of these 3 islands right here, and then all of these little flags that are covering what are 3 small islands up there, and those are the Gili Islands. All right, so let's first talk about Bali. So over here, just south of where it says Kuta, is Denpasar, the capital city, and where the airport is. I think I'm gonna start, I have this entire list here on my screen of all these like towns and points of interest. So I think I'm gonna start with the most popular and places you've heard before. Ubud is the name of your Eat, Pray, Love Bali. If you've never been to Bali before, you're picturing in your mind the greenery, the yoga. Ubud is right here where all of these flags are. All these flags are. It's just like a really popular space. You can still find those types of Eat, Pray, Love moments in Ubud, but it's also has become very popular, and so it's, you know, villas have been built over rice paddies. So if you want that experience, but you still want to be close to central Ubud, you could find an Airbnb out farther away from Ubud in some rice paddies. Or if that's just like way too touristy for you, you could explore over here more in Cinnamon. That would be like the new Ubud. That would be like, what is it called? A dupe. The dupe for Ubud. What Ubud was 30 years ago is Cinnamon over here. So this area in the cluster is Canggu, which I'm sure you've heard of. It became popular through digital nomads and influencers who were sharing their experience living there. The old hotspot before that was Chiang Mai in North Thailand. Digital nomads are looking for Wi-Fi, which in 2016 was a little bit harder to find, you know, a gym, good food, cool cafes. It was that kind of vibe. Now, you can't multiply a good thing really, because if you can't just say it's that times 100 now, because obviously it's lost some charm in the fact that it's grown so much. So instead of sitting in a cafe overlooking a rice paddy, you're just sitting in a cafe looking at the next cafe who's trying to create the same experience. Also, what's different is the crowd that's there. So at the time of why people were singing its praises is because it was this quiet little area where most of the people there were spending at least a month. Now who's there are spending maybe 2 to 10 days living there. It's too expensive for digital nomads to be there anymore. It's just another, like, you know, popular tourist destination, and it's just lost some of that kind of like full-time or long-term travel charm. So those people have left. There's still some that are like in some spots that I won't mention in the video, like at like some of the old cafes that were the first ones to be there. If you go in, you kind of see like that kind of vibe, but it's a different area. We'll talk about if and why you should visit there later. Okay, so that's Canggu. So I would say that those are the most like popular two places that you've probably heard of. If we keep coming down the beach here, just south of Canggu is Seminyak, which is has always been popular. There's great luxury boutique hotels there. There's great beachside clubs and bars. It's popular for Australian tourists that have always been coming up to Seminyak. A beautiful spot. Call it a beach vacation spot, but it's Bali. It's got vibes. It's very cool. It's not like going to a Cancun all-inclusive or anything. Okay, south of Seminyak, we've got Kuta. What Kuta used to be is the Australian party vibe. It's almost like what Canggu is now. It was like beachside bars, surf lessons. Now it has the remnants of that. So all those buildings are still there, except for it's not busy. So it's kind of weird. It's got all of like the hawkers selling things on the beach that aren't usually Balinese. They're coming from other parts of Indonesia selling you things on the beach. I don't really know what's going on in Kuta anymore. I don't think anybody's there. It just has all of that infrastructure that's still there. It wouldn't be on the top of my recommendation list, or anyone else's, I don't think. Yeah, okay, Uluwatu, also incredibly popular. All of these beautiful points of interest down in this little like, what should we call that? Down at the Bali bean, down at the bottom of this little nook here, all on the west coast. So this is all Uluwatu. This is beautiful here. There are cliffs over the ocean. It's got some of the best surf breaks in the world. So obviously that's drawing surfers, you know, internationally from all over. Very cool bars, very cool cafes, just great vibes down here in Uluwatu. There are cool beach clubs all the way down on this very south side. There are cool spots to surf over here on the west side. And your entire trip could be in Uluwatu and you would not be bored. There's lots going on. There's also kind of like the expansion inland into more budget cafes, more budget places to stay. So this whole kind of bean area is pretty cool. So Uluwatu is not that entire bottom section, but for the sake of this Bali 101 travel video, we're keeping things light here. Other things that are down here that also might be of interest to you, let's see, we've got, oh, Jimbaran is here. There's some so this kind of north area of the bean, that is, I'm trying to think of the brand names of the hotels that are there. Maybe Marriott is there, some IHG properties. It's like a beach, dinner on the beach at a big resort hotel. It's close to the airport though, so maybe if you've been up in Ubud and you want just a nice place to have a comfortable bed and a beautiful sunset view on the beach, you could have a night in Jimbaran before you leave and out of your flight from Denpasar. That's a thought. Speaking of luxury hotels, then this area of this peninsula on the east side of the bean, this is Nusa Dua in here, and I think is it Benua? Up on the top, the north point of that. Like the Ritz is here, the Conrad is here. There's beautiful luxury properties. Now you can get into some of these luxury properties for like $400 a night. So again, close to the airport, maybe you want to, after your 42 hours of travel, have a wonderful stay at the Ritz-Carlton for $420 a night. Get acclimated, fix your jet lag, be on the beach, be in this great property. I mean, a property like that in Maui would be $2,500. So the fact that you could stay at a Ritz in Bali, there's like not much else to do around there. Of course, you could book like a day trip. Ooh, segue, that's a great idea. Anyways, so that's what's over there in that area, more kind of like luxury hotels, but you're not like renting your own scooter and driving to the nearby cafe kind of thing going on there. Okay, so speaking of your day trips, so maybe if you did want to do that, you could book a day trip through your hotel and you'd be really close to jump on over to this cluster of islands here. So, okay, so this is Nusa Penida. If you have seen the picture of, how do you say, like I'm forgetting off the top of my head. We'll call it K Beach right here. It looks like the dinosaur. It's on the cliff. Everybody's like, top things to do in Bali. And it's a picture of that. So they're basically saying top thing to do in Bali is to leave Bali and go over to Nusa Penida. Well, that's beautiful there. You can see how big this island is too. So there's tons of stuff that you could do in this area. This is manta diving right here. If you are in season, there's cool like treehouse bungalow, booking.com and Airbnb stays. This is pretty rural, so it's kind of like a fun vibe. A lot of people just go for the day and come back to Bali. If you want to do that and if you want to go over there, obviously going there from a place towards the east coast of Bali versus like coming all the way from Canggu or Ubud makes a lot more sense, because otherwise you're sitting in the car for at least 90 minutes to get to the coast and then taking your ferry ride over to Nusa Penida. So, I mean, factor that into your itinerary planning. All right, as we continue to talk about nearby islands then, all the way over here are the Gilies, remember? So this massive piece of land, this is Lombok. That is an island that goes way east off screen. But the Gili Islands are 3 islands, Gili T, Gili Air, Gili Meno, different vibes on each. At the end of the day, kind of mostly all the same. The rule of thumb is that the Gili T is the party island, Gili Meno is the next one east. It's the smallest island. It's like talked about as the lovers, low-key, small island, because there's no ferry that goes directly there from Bali. And then Gili Air is the Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, perfect medium between the two. And that's the closest to Lombok. What do you do over there? You snorkel, you see turtles, you watch the sunset, you eat on the beach. I like Gili Air. again, as a Goldilocks and Three Bears of the thing, because you can get the island vibe of all of the places. You have the resources of the bigger island like Gili T, but you have the quietness of the smaller island like Gili Meno. And then I think it's the most beautiful island because it is the closest to Lombok. So when you're sitting there looking west at the sunset, you're looking at the mountainous Lombok Island. It's almost kind of like Bora Bora, where you're seeing the mountain in the distance along the coast. So it's kind of like a cool topographical reason to go there. Snorkeling is great on all the islands. If you are truly there for free diving or diving, Meno is probably the best one to just walk off the beach and see a bunch of turtles, have the best reefs. But if you're scuba diving, you're getting on a boat and it's like 5 minutes to go to the next one across the bay. So it doesn't really matter where you're staying if you're scuba diving. If you're scuba diving Indonesia, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was better, like far better in Komodo. So it is worth the flight if like diving is the #1 priority of your trip, which again, also wasn't Raja Ampat. So, but as a couple day trip off of Bali, it's really good. If you want to see the vibe there, of course, we have our 90-minute travel vlogumentary over on Tim and Finn, our other channel. So go and watch that trip where me, Tim, and Jenna hung out in Bali and the Gili Islands. Gili's is the first place that we go to, so you can quickly get a feel for that at the beginning of the video. Now, the reason we went to the Gili Islands first is because the ferry system to get there can be unpredictable because weather is unpredictable. So again, just like we talked about with Nusa Penida, if you are coming from Bali, you would want to come from the east coast of Bali. So what we did when we landed is we landed in Denpasar. We took transportation that I booked through the hotel. We could have just grabbed a taxi, but it was really nice to have somebody staying there with our name for like $5 extra who knew exactly where we were going, took us to the hotel over here to, I'm gonna get this wrong on the map. I think, is this Padang Bai? It might be like right here is Padang Bai. That hour driving saved us an hour, boop, 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 that would have been through the water here. So that the next morning we got on the ferry and went over to the Gilis. Instead of leaving Gilis for the end of the trip and then missing our flight because the ferry was late coming back or something. So those are all, like, I would say, the most popular spots. Now let's dive into, what else did I put down that I wanted to mention to you guys? Yeah, I had Sanur on here. Sanur over here is another port town. I think people actually do kind of stay there. There is some scuba diving there. I wouldn't like fly all the way to Bali to just dive around Sanur. When we've got the Caribbean and Central America so close to the US, but maybe for the Australians, that makes sense. I don't know. I have it on here, but that's more of just like a jumping off point. A lot of the day trips leave to Nusa Penida from Sanur right there. Umalas is a little bit southeast of Canggu right here. I would say that that is basically where all of the digital nomads went to when Canggu became too expensive. It's still in the same area, but it's just more like full-time, long-term travel people there in Umalas. So like if you know how to drive a motorbike, that would be a more budget-friendly place to stay, to be really close to Seminyak and Canggu and get around just like all the long-term travelers do. So look for your Airbnb stay in Umalas there. Oh, I put Ahmed on here. Ahmed, ooh, this is like a quiz because there's not the towns on here. I think this is Ahmed up here. Ahmed is really popular for the free divers. I think there's some reefs out here, but it's more like, is this how you draw fish? No. That's not what I want to do. I want to do like this. I have other strengths. Okay. This is Ahmed. Popular for free divers, boho vibe over here because it's pretty off the grid. You have a volcano right here. So that would be cool, again, if you drive a motorbike to like be more off grid here. Remember, as I said, as we go on in the video, it's gonna be more and more off grid. So nowhere so far you've had to like know how to drive a scooter or anything, but you would want to know how to get around by yourself if you were out here. This whole like north area, there's some hotels, restaurants, cafes. There's dolphin tours in Lavina up here that are ethically ambiguous. I haven't done the dolphin tour. I'm assuming it's not great, but it's pretty remote up there. I think people just do day trips from Ubud or something and go up there. And it's not a straight line. It's like, that's kind of how you get around over here. Speaking of Northwest Bali, North Bali, and Central Bali. Okay, so that leaves this whole region, which is probably what Bali looked like 60 years ago. So if this all sounds like you've picked the wrong island, this is way too touristy and popular for you, head northwest, you will be pleasantly surprised. Central Bali is still very similar to that with the volcanoes. It can get cold up here. You're getting up to elevation. I mean, coming to you from 8,500 feet here in Colorado, but elevation, I mean, it gets chilly. You'll want a jacket. The Mount Batur hike from Ubud is beautiful. Everybody loves doing that. But yeah, this is very non-touristy in Northwest and in Central Bali. So, have we made a total mess of this map? Probably, but I hope that this gave you a little bit of insight on what's going on in all these different regions, because that's kind of how I start to plan a trip. I start to map out points of interest in things that I know that I want to do, and that starts to dictate the route that I'm taking on the trip. So in the next section, what we're going to do is we're going to start to take this information and turn it into an itinerary. I should probably turn this on Do Not Disturb. What do you want, Tim? Still filming, question mark. Yes, peace sign, great. He's probably hungry and waiting to use the kitchen right there. Okay, but we'll be very quiet for you guys, okay? Shh. Hopefully that wasn't too chaotic. That's a lot. It's a big island. There's so much. That's why Bali is so amazing, because you can have 20 different trips every single time you go back. And as travelers, we keep loving going back to Bali because it is so different every time we go there. There's so much more to see that we haven't seen yet. It just is really far. Okay, let's start talking about the itinerary. Now, if you are like, finally, dear God, just tell me where I need to go, I hear you. I'm obviously not that type of person, but I appreciate that some people are. So I'm gonna tell you what we did and why we did it. In a 2-week itinerary, you can totally steal all of this, and then we'll start to modify from there. Here's what we did with Jenna. Jenna was coming to her first time to Bali. I wanted her to experience multiple different diverse areas of Bali. So we landed in Denpasar at like 10 p.m. and instead of having that down day, we wanted to just keep moving, keep traveling, all the stuff's in the bag, just keep going. So I told you we came up here to Padang Bai, which is gonna save us an hour on the boat because I was really stressing the ferry system. We took the Blue Water ferry from Padang Bai. Again, I think it's actually in this cove. We went right over to Gili Air. Actually, the ferry stops in Gili T first and then heads to Gili Air. We spent 3 nights here. It was incredible. Tim and I were diving. We did frickin' the snorkeling tour, which was so good. You'll see that in our travel vlog on the other channel. 10 out of 10 experience. You'll see his information to book directly with him if you want. #not sponsored. One of the best day trips we've been on with a local guide anywhere in the world. How amazing. We saw 40 turtles. On this trip, I'll tell you, we did not do these islands here. I would say like in a short 2-week trip, pick one. It would probably be a lot to do Gili's and Nusa Penida. You would just limit your time on the actual island of Bali and have a lot of travel days. So we picked that. Next time we'll probably do this. All right, since now we're coming back from the Gili's, again back to Padang Bai, I had arranged transportation through the Airbnb, the next Airbnb we're going to, which is in Ubud, which was awesome because this ferry port is so crowded and busy and everyone's screaming at you. The taxi driver was trying to grab you. Again, this was like, I had a WhatsApp. He was like, I'm in the parking lot. We walked over there. it was so easy. So this travel day was pretty simplistic. Ferry was on time, headed up to Ubud. It's killing me that I'm drawing these not on the driving map. To drive to Ubud, you have to like go along the coast down here and then you come up. But that would be confusing if I started drawing like that. Okay, 4 nights, Ubud. Top things to do there, the monkey forest. I really don't like monkeys. After years, I did, but now after years of travel, I really don't like monkeys. They are terrifying. And Jenna, this was like her top thing to do. So we spent several hours in the monkey forest. Go watch her have a lot of fun with the monkeys there. Monkey forest. This is where you want to take your yoga classes, do a cultural experience, and check out the scenery. So we planned an entire day driving around the waterfalls. We have a ton of experience on motorbikes. This was no big deal for us to rent scooters through our Airbnb and do like a whole DIY drive through this area. Check the link below for like all the different waterfall points of interest if you want to DIY yourself. I don't recommend learning how to ride a motorbike for the first time in Bali on the roads. Like it's just so busy and crazy. What you can do is either, of course, book a guide, but like book a tour, or what you could do too is, we haven't talked about it yet. You need to download Gojek or Grab and put your credit card information in before you leave for the trip because you can't do it on site in Indonesia. That's a way that you can, it's like Uber and Uber Eats in one app in Gojek. And Grab is like the same thing, but just a different brand. You could get like a Gojek driver and take you around to the waterfalls all day. So you could DIY your own tour for the cost of an Uber motorbike driver, which might cost you like under $15. And a tour might cost you like $70. So we're still DIYing in a safe way. Other things in Ubud. Oh, we did a cooking class here. Short on time. We wanted to just go in, learn how to make the food. 10 out of 10 experience. Her information is below. This was a very basic tour. A lot of the cooking classes in Ubud either take you out into the rice paddies where you are picking herbs out of the beautiful garden, or you're going into the market to buy food. And those I'm sure are also great experiences. Those are more like the entire day, like 6 or 8 hours. So check those out. I like to find stuff on Airbnb Experience first, and then like get your guide or Viator second are also good options. There, of course, are some really cool places to take a yoga class in Ubud. Even if it's your first time, don't be intimidated by the fact that it's this Eat, Pray, Love location of Ubud. There are yoga classes catered for beginners. If you're not a beginner, there are also yoga classes tailored to so many different types of different practices that's really a great opportunity to, if you're into yoga, to start to consider a new type of class that wouldn't be offered in your hometown. I can't even like think of something cool off the top of your head, but it's like, you know, yoga with meditation. Everything's basically a hot yoga class because it's so hot there. The buildings are cool. You're like half outside. You're like half getting eaten by mosquitoes. It's a magical experience. So take a yoga class in Ubud. So far, this itinerary has been based on not getting screwed over by the ferry system, going to the Gillies, and proximity, completing a circle from where we wanted to go. Our itinerary gets a little complicated from here because Jenna was leaving before we were leaving. We were spending more time in Canggu, things like that. So what you need to be aware of is the traffic is nuts in this circle, okay? Wait, let's put the red circle. Woo, crazy, crazy, crazy traffic. Between the hours of 9:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. You should add at least 45 minutes, if not an hour, onto your 45-minute or hour drive. So a 1 hour drive is now 2 hours, a 45-minute drive is now 90 minutes. That's important because the airport is right in that circle and you're gonna be going back and forth into the circle. It's not like getting on the highway and going fast. You are the entire time winding around small Balinese streets that were mostly built for motorbikes in the back of a car with your luggage. So, you know, if you wind up with like a really early or a really late flight in and out of Bali, it's probably to your advantage because you're saving an hour of travel. Like if you're like, oh, I've got that 7 a.m. flight. Honestly, great, more power to you because you did not sit here for an hour inside that circle. So that's also important because based on the amount that you are going to be traveling around the island, you don't want to screw yourself over with sitting in the back of a taxi for half of the day in your 10 days in Bali. So from here, what you could do is get back down from Ubud, down to Canggu, let's see, or if you're staying in Seminyak, somewhere down Umalas, down along the coast there. That would probably be the logical next step, completing the circle, and then down to Uluwatu. So let's say 3 nights in Canggu, 3 to 4 nights in Uluwatu, and then back up to the airport as your beautiful 2-week trip itinerary. That could be your trip. So you land, you have 1 night in Padang Bai, depending on, or you could just get right on a ferry if you land in the morning, all the way out to the Gillies, 3 nights, 4 nights Ubud, because that gives you a bunch of day trip time to get around, 3 nights Canggu, 4 nights, where are we on the math, in Uluwatu, and then back to the airport. That I would call the Balinese highlight itinerary. You'd be staying in popular locations and you could still get off the beaten path within that on a day trip. I felt like the pace was great because we hate moving too fast. We were never bored. It allowed for people to be kind of like sick, Bali belly throughout the duration of the trip, whatever they need. You know, it was like enough to have a 1 down day kind of thing. And that was just a really great balance. Now, what I'll do from here is if you're not going for 14 days and you need a shorter trip, if you are going to be living in Bali for 30 days kind of thing, we can start to expand upon what we have. So let's clear this all out. Erase, 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 la, 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 la. Well, okay, wait. Let's go shorter first. What you could do is shorten your Ubud stay, -1. Shorten your Canggu stay, -1. Gillies, only 2 nights in Gillies mean that you're taking the ferry every other day, you know, like you could. -1, -1, -1 would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Less than 9 days in Bali probably wouldn't be worth traveling across the world to go do. Like if you can only take 7 days off of work, plus you're gonna have over a day on either side, it's just really not worth it. Americans, if you're Australian, you're just laughing, but that would be really, really rough. If you want to add on, the things that itinerary didn't cover is the cool day trip out here, a cool like Instagrammy treehouse stay somewhere in this area. I said that this was Cinnamon. This area is just kind of like more up and coming with like those unique stay houses are all in this area. So that would be fun to like go out, spend the night and keep moving along on the trip. And it also doesn't take into account a day trip, a farther day trip. You wouldn't necessarily have to stay up here, but there's some really cool waterfalls and natural sites up in this kind of like north central Bali that you would take a day trip from your Ubud accommodation. You know, it's always hard to like check out, move, check in. So whenever you can take a day trip somewhere, I always recommend. So you could still stay around Ubud and then come up here for the day. So this would be a +1 on that first itinerary, this would be a +1, and this would be a +1. So then that would give us the 3. So if this was adding 1 to Ubud, that would be 5. This kind of Cinnamon area would be your 6 or even 7. I'd probably add another one to Uluwatu down there too. And then we already had 3 in Canggu. I mean, you can stay in Canggu as long as you want. 3, and then that was adding 1 onto 3, which is 4. So where are we at? We've got 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17. Did I count for that? 8, 18. 18, yeah, 3, yeah, you could totally do 3 weeks in Bali and not be bored and see so many different things. And you would need to build in some down days in there because that would be a lot. But man, what a cool spot. Whew. Oh my gosh, please let us know if you're going to Bali. We love sharing and following your travel stories. If you want the links below, if you want us to send you the link of all this information so you have it in one place, DM us on Instagram, we'll send it right to you. Download, grab, and Gojek. Make sure you watch our How to Pack for Bali travel video below. One of our friends, Crosby, filmed a video for this channel on packing for Bali in a carry-on only. Highly recommended. Plus it's like tropical. It's no big deal to pack in a carry-on for Bali. It's very casual. We are a packing gear company, so we know all about packing. If you have any packing questions, please reach out and let us know. But check out Crosby's video first. And my gosh, I'm so excited for you. Send me a DM and invite me on your trip. And Suksma, if you want to say thank you in Bali, Suksma, and see you on your next trip.